The air in Blackwood Forest always clung to me, thick and damp, smelling of pine needle decay and something else older, something like wet earth and forgotten things. Most people avoided Blackwood, claiming the trails were poorly maintained, or that the cell service was non-existent. I liked it for those very reasons. It was a place where the modern world couldn't intrude, a balm for my frayed nerves after weeks spent coding in a sterile office. It was a Tuesday, a particularly gloomy one, the sky overhead a bruised purple. I'd set out deeper than usual, following a deer path that veered off the main trail, twisting through a dense thicket of ancient spruces. The silence here was profound, broken only by the rustle of my boots on fallen leaves and the distant, mournful cry of a hawk. That's when I saw it. Half buried in a pile of rotting leaves and damp soil, something glinted. It was small, dark, and rectangular. My initial thought was a forgotten lunchbox, or perhaps a child's toy. I nudged it with my boot. It felt oddly heavy. Bending down, I scraped away the mud with a gloved hand. It wasn't a lunchbox. It was a camera. Not a modern DSLR, not even one of those sleek mirrorless models. This was an old camcorder, the kind my dad used to film our family vacations in the late 90s. Its plastic casing was cracked and discolored, a fine layer of green moss clinging to its contours. The flip-out screen was shattered, spiderwebbed with cracks. It looked like it had been there for years, perhaps even decades. Curiosity, a dangerous trait of mine, immediately took hold. Who would abandon such a thing so deep in the woods? What memories might lie trapped within its ancient circuitry? I picked it up, feeling the surprising weight of it. The battery compartment was sealed tight, but a faint, putrid smell emanated from it, like something had died inside. Still, the thought of forgotten footage, a glimpse into someone else's past, was too tantalizing to resist. I tucked the camcorder into my backpack, the chill of the forest suddenly seeming to deepen, clinging to me even more than before. Back in my apartment, the scent of damp earth and decay still clung to the camcorder, even after I'd wiped away the worst of the mud. I laid it on my desk, a peculiar artifact from another time. The first challenge was power. The battery was long dead, of course. After some fiddling, I managed to pry open the compartment, revealing a swollen, leaking battery that looked like a miniature alien cocoon. I tossed it in the trash, then rooted through my box of obsolete chargers and cables. Miraculously, I found a universal adapter with a pin that almost fit the camcorder's power port. It sparked once, then twice. My heart gave a hopeful flutter. Then, a low, drawn-out hum began. The tiny red on light blinked erratically. The shattered screen remained dark, but that wasn't an issue. My goal was the memory card. After another struggle, I located the small latch, rusted almost shut. With tweezers and a determined grip, I managed to pull out a compact flash card, surprisingly intact. It was an old one, a mere 256 megabytes, barely enough for a few minutes of modern video, but more than enough for the older format this camera used. My computer, a powerful machine, whirred to life as I inserted the card into a reader. The File Explorer window popped open. DCIM, the standard folder for camera images. There was only one file, a single large AVI file, simply named video001.avi. Its timestamp was odd. January 1st, 1999, 12:00 a.m. Placeholder, probably. The size indicated it held almost the entire 256 MB. My anticipation was a tangible thing, a knot in my stomach. I double-clicked. The screen flickered, showing static for a moment, then resolved into an image. It was grainy, as expected, but clear enough. The footage began with a shaky shot of dense forest floor, fallen leaves, and tangled roots. The sound was muffled, mostly just wind and the faint chirping of unseen birds. It looked like Blackwood, definitely. My sense of unease, which had been a low hum, began to intensify. The camera lifted, revealing tall, ancient trees. The light was dim, as if shot on an overcast day, or deep in the dusk. The silence on the recording felt different from the natural silence of the woods. It felt heavy, watchful. A few minutes in, I saw a hand, gloved and calloused, holding the camera. The fingers were long, bony. The camera panned slowly, deliberately, lingering on the shadowed undergrowth. It felt less like a casual hike and more like a search, or a stakeout. The first truly unsettling moment came about 5 minutes in. The camera was pointing at a cluster of thick bushes. For a split second, something moved behind them. Too fast to identify, just a blur, a darker shadow against shadows. I paused the video, zoomed in. Nothing. My imagination, I told myself. Blackwood was known for its wildlife. The footage continued. The camera holder was moving, slowly at first, then picking up pace. The breathing came through now, ragged and shallow, like someone close to exhaustion or fear. The wind picked up, whipping through the mic, distorting the audio. But beneath the wind, I heard it. A low, guttural sound. It wasn't an animal. It was too deep, too resonant, like a bass note played on a cello made of bone. My blood ran cold. I pressed pause, my finger trembling. My apartment, usually a sanctuary of tech and comfort, suddenly felt too big, too empty. I swallowed, my throat dry. Just a wild animal, I reasoned. Maybe a bear, though Blackwood wasn't known for them. I pressed play. The sounds grew louder, closer. The breathing accelerated into frantic gasps. The camera began to shake violently. The person holding it was running. Trees blurred into streaks. The ground was uneven, roots and rocks flying past. The sound of their heavy boots thudding on the forest floor was sickeningly real. And that low growl, it was definitely closer now. It was layered with another sound, too. A high-pitched, almost feminine wail that cut through the growl, making the hair on my arms stand on end. Suddenly, the camera spun wildly. For a terrifying fraction of a second, I saw a face. It wasn't the face of the person holding the camera. It was behind them, blurred by motion, but undeniably there. 2 pinpricks of light, like embers in the gloom, and the suggestion of a gaping maw. It was too fleeting, too indistinct for my mind to fully process, but what little I grasped made my stomach heave. It wasn't human. It wasn't animal. The next few seconds were pure chaos. The person stumbled, falling hard. The camera hit the ground, rolling. The view became a dizzying kaleidoscope of sky, leaves, and dirt. The breathing was a choked gasp, followed by a wet, gurgling sound. The growl was deafening now, right on top of the microphone, vibrating my speakers. And the wail. It transformed, becoming a triumphant shriek, not from a human throat. Then, the camera settled. It was angled awkwardly upwards, showing a stretch of dark, gnarled tree trunk, then a sliver of the gloomy sky. The sound continued, a horrific symphony of tearing, squelching, and wet, heavy thuds. The gurgling intensified, then ceased. The wail ended abruptly, replaced by a low, contented hum, chilling in its unnaturalness. My eyes were glued to the screen, even as my mind screamed for me to look away. And then, it happened. Slowly, deliberately, something began to descend into the frame from the top. It was like a shadow given form, impossibly long, impossibly thin. Its surface seemed to absorb light, making it a darker void against the already dim background. There was a faint shimmer, a glint from something that might have been an eye, or merely a trick of the light on a slick, chitinous surface. It didn't have discernible limbs in the human sense, but there were suggestions of appendages, numerous and jointed at impossible angles, unfolding from its shadowy mass like a horrifying origami. It paused, hovering directly over where the camera was presumably pointing. The camera gave a final, desperate shudder. The hum intensified, a deep, resonant vibration that I could feel in my chest. And then, a sound I'll never forget, a sound that will haunt my dreams until the day I die. A wet, sucking sound, like something being drawn through a narrow pipe, followed by a faint, almost delicate crack. The screen went black. The audio cut out abruptly. The timestamp remained, frozen on January 1st, 1999, 12 a.m. I sat there, frozen, staring at the black screen. My apartment was utterly silent, save for the frantic pounding of my own heart against my ribs. My hands were shaking so violently I had to clench them into fists. A cold sweat plastered my shirt to my back. What had I just seen? What was that thing? The primitive horror movie music of the mind. The kind that plays when you know you've glimpsed something that defies all logic, something ancient and malevolent, began to play. It wasn't an animal. It wasn't human. It was a predator. And it was in Blackwood Forest. I tried to rationalize it. A prank? Elaborate special effects? But the graininess, the authentic shaky cam, the sheer visceral terror in the breathing and the movements, it felt too real. The sounds, especially the final, horrifying sounds, were seared into my brain. The wet suck, the crack. I couldn't stay in my apartment. I couldn't sleep. The image of that shadowy form, the glint of its hidden eye, played on a loop in my mind. Every creak of the building, every whisper of the wind outside my window, sounded like the creature's unholy hum, or the faint, distant wail echoing from the footage. I thought about calling the police. What would I say? I found an old camcorder in the woods, and the footage shows someone being devoured by a shadow monster. They'd think I was insane. And even if they believed me, what could they do? Patrol Blackwood Forest for a creature that defied description? The camcorder still sat on my desk, a silent, damning witness. I couldn't bring myself to touch it again, or to delete the file. It felt like destroying evidence, or worse, disturbing something that was better left buried. The woods had given me something, and now I was connected to it. For days I avoided Blackwood. But the woods, it seemed, didn't avoid me. The smell of pine and damp earth, faint but persistent, began to permeate my apartment. I'd wake up in the dead of night, convinced I heard that low, guttural growl, or the fainter, more insidious hum, just outside my window. My logical mind told me it was my trauma, my imagination twisting everyday sounds into horrors. But then, last night, I found a small, dark leaf on my pillow. It wasn't a leaf from any tree in my neighborhood. It was distinctive, elongated, with serrated edges, the kind that only grows on the ancient spruces deep within Blackwood Forest. I looked at the camcorder on my desk. It felt colder than it should. The fractured screen seemed to stare back at me like a single dead eye. And I couldn't shake the terrifying thought that the creature in the footage hadn't just killed the person holding the camera. It had found them. And now, by finding the camera, I had opened a door. The woods were calling. Or perhaps, something from the woods was calling me. And I knew, with a certainty that froze my very soul, that it wouldn't be long before I heard that low hum, not just in my head, but right outside my door. And this time, I wouldn't have a camera to record my final moments.